So let's talk about being a bureaucratic black belt. You mentioned earlier DevOps, right? And how DevOps plays into all of this, how you can leverage DevOps and automation of delivery to meet the needs of a bureaucracy. Can you talk about what being a bureaucratic black belt means, and how does DevOps and CI/CD and automation fit into this whole process? How do we roll this back around to Agile and DevOps concepts?
So this is the bonus chapter in the book, essentially. After talking about how you get through bureaucracy and still do a transformation, I thought, just as a bonus, let's ask ourselves how you could set up a good bureaucracy if you're a really good bureaucrat. Excuse me. And so in that chapter, I give 16 different plays or techniques that you'd want to use if you were a really good bureaucrat to set up a bureaucracy that added value and didn't have those problems that I talked about in relation to bureaucracies. I like to use the example of DevOps because if you take that academic definition I gave you before, in many ways, you would have to say that DevOps is bureaucracy. And what I mean by that is it's easiest to see if you think of an example. So in old school software development, you often have change control of some sort when you're going to deploy an application to production, right? You have maybe a change control board, and you have a formal process, and you have to get sign-offs that it's okay to deploy something. Well, you don't do any of that in DevOps. But what you do is you have an automated process that doesn't let you do a deployment unless the code has passed all of its automated tests. And you do the deployment through scripts, and the scripts they're set. They don't vary. They do exactly what they do. Yeah, they're rules. And you put rules in production. In the cloud, we do this a lot. We have policy enforcement in the cloud in production. And so in a way, you're doing exactly the same thing that was done bureaucratically before, but you're doing it in an automated way. So the bureaucracy hasn't gone away. It's just been automated. You still have to make sure the code passes all of its tests. Before, the change control board might have looked at documentation that proved that it passed all the tests and then say, yes, it's okay to deploy. Now we don't have to go through that, but there's still code that enforces the fact that it passed all of its tests. And you still have ways to roll back if something goes wrong with the deployment, which the change control board probably would have forced you to do before. But now you can do it in an automated way using DevOps in the cloud. So all of those same controls that were applied in the bureaucracy before are still applied, but in an automated way. So I suggest you can think of that as automated bureaucracy. And that's a great tactic for making the bureaucracy palatable and productive and lean, is wherever you have bureaucracy, try to automate it. And DevOps, great example of how to do it. Similarly, for security controls, instead of someone at the end coming in and doing security testing and then saying, well, that doesn't meet our security rules, it doesn't comply, which would be old school bureaucracy. In many cases, we would have the security team write automated tests that would do security testing of the code and do it very thoroughly. And if the code passed those security tests, it was ready to be deployed. Well, the same bureaucracy is still there. The security folks have, they still are the people responsible. They still have the authority, and they can decide whether code should be deployed or not. But they exercise that authority by providing automated tests that the code has to pass. So the bureaucracy hasn't gone away. It's just become really efficient and lean and enabling. It enables the software developers to do their own security testing, essentially, as they're coding. So this is the core, I think, of being a black belt bureaucrat, of being a really good bureaucrat, is to take advantage of all these opportunities to automate bureaucracy and make it thereby lean and enabling and able to change, and all of the other characteristics of good bureaucracies.
Very cool. Yeah, and to your point, one of the other things about automation that people sometimes forget is if you create it properly, it always does the same thing.
Yeah.
So you've got a built-in guarantee that the rule will be followed as long as you have successfully set it up. And that should ease the mind of the auditors, the bureaucrats, those that want to make sure the rules are followed. There's no way not to follow the rule.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
the
the
automation
controls are
is done
even
properly.
better, right? And they're
Exactly.
also self-auditing in a way.
Mhm.
So, you know, if you have a person who's trying to enforce the rules, you don't know if maybe they were lax or not paying attention or something. You know, there isn't really the audit trail to say they paid attention and enforced the rule. But if you automate the bureaucracy, then you can track from the audit trail whether the rule was applied or not. You can track when somebody changed the rule and what process they went through to change it. You know, all of these things suddenly become auditable with no extra effort on the part of the people who are the bureaucrats.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.